On the southern coast of Africa, inside Blombo's cave, archaeologists found small pieces of red ochre marked with careful cross-hatched lines. They were made tens of thousands of years ago by hands that left no names and no explanation. Nobody knows exactly what the markings meant. That is the point. The mark mattered because it stood for something beyond the rock itself. A mind that could make that kind of mark could live inside symbols. A mind that could live inside symbols could eventually live inside money, law, religion, and science. The animal that pressed pigment into stone did not look powerful. It was not the strongest animal on the savannah. It was not the fastest animal or the best armed animal. It was an anxious social primate with a strange ability. It could make other minds believe in things that were not physically present. 70,000 years later, that ability has become one of the most powerful forces on Earth. The question is no longer whether Homo sapiens can change the world. The question is whether it knows what it wants from the world it has changed. Across 70,000 years, one fact about Homo sapiens kept returning. It accumulated power, not steadily, not cleanly, not without collapse, cruelty, and loss. But over long spans of time, the direction of travel was toward greater capacity. The cognitive revolution made strangers easier to coordinate. Agriculture changed the food supply and tied people to fields. Writing gave institutions a memory longer than any human life. Money allowed trust to travel between people who would never meet. Empire organized millions under common rules. Science turned ignorance into a method. Industry released ancient stores of energy and multiplied output beyond anything earlier societies could imagine. No one meant to build the final result. The farmer planting grain was not planning global markets. The clerk pressing a stylus into clay was not planning bureaucratic states. The coal worker feeding a furnace was not planning a changed atmosphere. Each step solved a local problem. Together they produced a planetary condition. For most of its history, Homo sapiens was trying to survive winter and feed children. It was settling debts, winning wars, curing disease, and making tools. The power arrived as a side effect. By the early 21st century, one species had become a dominant force in climate, ecosystems, and the future path of evolution. Whether or not geology gives the moment a formal name, the rocks will keep the evidence. The fingerprints will be in carbon and plastic. They will be in extinction layers, crop pollen, and altered rivers. The planet now records human decisions. That is new. Consider a Roman soldier on Hadrian's Wall in the 2nd century CE. He carries a coin stamped with the face of an emperor he will never meet. A merchant outside the fort accepts it for bread, oil, or cloth. The merchant does not know the mint. The soldier does not know the emperor. The emperor does not know either of them. The exchange works because enough people act as if the coin means what the empire says it means. The value is not inside the metal. It is inside a shared belief carried by thousands of strangers at once. That is the engine underneath the whole human ascent. Homo sapiens did not merely learn to speak. It learned to stabilize imagined orders across large populations. Money is one of those orders. Nations are one of those orders. Human rights are one of those orders. Science is also one, not as fantasy, but as a shared method for deciding what counts as evidence. These inventions are not weak because they are imagined. They are powerful because they are imagined together. They solve the coordination problem. They allow millions of people to act toward goals no individual could reach alone. But each answer hides a harder question. What should the coordinated millions be doing? The harder question has never lived only in philosophy. It has lived in rooms. In 325 CE, bishops gathered in Nicaea under the eye of an emperor who needed religious unity inside a fragile empire. The argument was theological, but the stakes were social and political. Whose interpretation of divine order would guide the behavior of millions? The creed that emerged was not only a statement about belief, it was an instrument for direction. It told people what counted as true, what counted as error, and who had authority to say so. More than 16 centuries later, another room tried a different answer. In 1948, delegates in Paris debated a declaration of rights after the Holocaust. World war and nuclear attack had shown what modern states could do to human beings. They disagreed about politics, religion, and economics. They still produced a language that claimed protection for every person by virtue of being human. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights did not end cruelty. It did not create a world government. It did not make states obedient. But it gave the powerless a vocabulary for accusation, appeal, and demand. Nicaea and Paris belonged to different worlds. They were still versions of the same event. People entered a room because coordination without direction had become dangerous. They tried to say what obligations bind human beings to one another. They tried to decide whose authority could be trusted. They tried to answer what the coordinated millions should do. Every civilization has made some version of that attempt. Every answer has been partial. Every answer has been contested. The question has survived them all. The current moment is different because the tools have become intimate and planetary at the same time. The species can edit genomes. It can build machines that detect patterns beyond ordinary human comprehension. It can connect nervous systems to devices. It has changed the chemistry of the atmosphere. It has created global markets that move faster than political judgment. It has built artificial intelligence systems that can outperform humans in specific domains while remaining indifferent to human meaning. These are not separate facts. One condition. Coordination has outrun direction. The systems that organize billions of people are faster than the moral frameworks that tell those systems what they are for. That does not mean human beings are stupid. It does not mean most people are malicious. Most people, most of the time, are trying to do something that seems reasonable from where they stand. The problem is structural. Local reason can produce planetary danger. A farmer clears a field. A company lowers a cost. A state seeks security. A lab solves a disease. A platform optimizes attention. Each action has an internal logic. Together, they change the conditions of life. The ancient rooms had time measured in weeks, years, or generations. The present room is everywhere at once. It is in laboratories, boardrooms, and courts. It is in parliaments, data centers, hospitals, and homes. It has no single door. It has no single chair at the head of the table. Yet the question inside it is the old one. What should this power be for? Return to the cave. A hand presses pigment into stone. A pattern appears where there had been only rock. No one now living knows exactly what it meant, but the gesture itself is still legible. It says that this animal could make meaning and then organize life around it. From that hand came coins, creeds, and declarations. From that hand came factories, laboratories, and code. From that hand came healing and hunger at scale. From that hand came cathedrals and concentration camps. From that hand came the power to look into the genome, the atmosphere, and the machine. The same animal did all of it. That is the hardest fact to hold. Homo sapiens did not become powerful despite its contradictions. It became powerful through them. Cooperation and competition. Individual desire and collective order. Efficiency and justice. Short-term hunger and long-term consequence. These were not small flaws added to an otherwise simple creature. They were the friction that made history move. The contradictions are larger now because the power is larger. The animal is still anxious, social, and story-dependent. It still needs shared meanings to coordinate strangers. It still invents orders and then forgets that it invented them. It still wants comfort, status, and security. It still wants love, belonging, and more time. It still does not know how to rank those desires when they collide. That is the final condition. More power than any creature has ever held. No settled answer to what the power is for. The coordination was never the hardest part. The direction always was. Is there anything more dangerous than dissatisfied and irresponsible gods who do not know what they want?